Dear students, let me start our third part of literature review. How to conduct a literature search. So first you need to identify what approach you are intending to apply in your literature search. Then you need to search tertiary literature sources such as indexes, abstracts, as well as encyclopedia and bibliographies. Then you can obtain relevant information, relevant literature from scanning and browsing secondary literature. Okay, and also you can search using internet, searching using tertiary literature. Then in searching literature, you need to ensure keywords match control indexed language. Then you need to search appropriate printed and database sources. Then take note precise details used, including search strings. Then also take note the full references of each search found. Then you can use printed sources in searching literature. Then you can use database for literature search as well. Then you can do scanning and browsing. You can browse internet for searching literature. And how to search literature on the internet, you can look at the diagram in your slide. Okay, I'm not going to explain this diagram. I think all of you are clear about this diagram. So if you have any confusion, you may ask a question later on. Okay, then let me discuss how to evaluate literature. There are two questions, okay, frequently asked by our students are, how do I know what I am reading is relevant? And the second question, how do I know when I have read enough? So both of these are concerned with the process of evaluation. In order to evaluate your literature, first you need to define the scope of your review. Then you need to assess relevance and value. Assessing the relevance of the literature you have collected to your research, it depends on your research questions and objectives. Then you need to assess sufficiency. You need to be sure that your critical review discusses what research has already been undertaken and that you have positioned your research project in the wider context, citing the main writers in the field. Then you need to record the literature. So make notes for each item you read, record, take note biographic details, then write down brief summary of the content, then take note of supplementary information. Then let me talk about a little bit about plagiarism. Okay, so there are four common forms of plagiarism. Number one is stealing material from another source and passing it off as your own. For example, buying a paper from a research service, essay bank, or term paper mill, either specifically written for the individual or pre-written. Then copying a whole paper from a source text without proper acknowledgement. Then submitting another student's work with or without that student's knowledge. Example, by copying a computer disk. Then second form of plagiarism, submitting a paper written by someone else, maybe by a peer or relative, and passing it off as your own. Then third form of plagiarism, copying sections of materials from one or more source text, supplying proper documentation including the full reference but leaving out quotation marks, thus giving the impression that the material has been paraphrased rather than directly quoted. For the last form of plagiarism, paraphrasing materials from one or more source text without supplying appropriate documentation. So let me summarize today's lecture. Today we have discussed the importance and purpose of the critical literature review to your research project. Then we have discussed how to adopt a critical perspective in your readings. Then we have also discussed what you need to include when writing your critical review. Then we have discussed the literature sources available, such as primary sources of literature, then secondary and tertiary literature source. Then we have discussed how to identify keywords and to undertake a literature search using a range of methods. Okay. Then we have discussed how to evaluate the relevance, value, and sufficiency of the literature found. Then also we have discussed how to reference the literature found accurately. Then finally we have discussed what is meant by plagiarism and what are the common forms of plagiarism. Then I hope at the end of this class, I hope that you can apply this knowledge, these skills and understanding of this lecture in your own research project. So that's all for today's lecture. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.